training to deal with problems?
Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, we have simulators that we utilize as part of the training curriculum for our students. Yes.
Would you have practiced a situation like this in that simulator?
Well, again, when you say a situation like this, we don't actually know what the situation was. We only know the results of it. But we spend a great deal of time with our students training them for what we call emergency procedures or off-nominal procedures. We train students for what happens if engines fail. We train students what happens if generator fails, if landing gear fail to extend, and so on. But again, one of the most critical phases of flight is takeoff. Another critical phase is landing, because you have close proximity to the ground and not a lot of reaction time.
Can you tell us a little bit about what they were doing? Were they down in the Bahamas for the day? Was this a couple days? Like, how do trips like this work, and are they a usual part of your curriculum?
Yes, a trip like this is usually a one-day trip. It's what we call our international operations curriculum. And what they would have done was plan this flight. Planning would have begun a day or so ahead of time. You know, what are we going to do? What kind of profile are we going to fly? How much gas we need, and so on and so forth. They would have taken off yesterday and stopped at Palm Beach to pick up flotation gear, because you're going over water, so you want to have appropriate flotation gear available. Flown to the Bahamas, and in the Bahamas they would have made perhaps several different approaches to different runways. Standard instrument approaches to practice to those airports. Refueled, they probably ate lunch, and then climbed in and flew home. On the way home, they had to stop at Palm Beach to clear customs. You come back into the United States, you need to clear customs, you need to turn in your flotation gear again, and more than likely they refueled the airplane at Palm Beach. And on takeoff to return to Melbourne is when the accident happened. So a typical trip like this would take place over a one-day period of time. It's not unusual to go spend the night, but it's usually done in one day.
And with each leg of the trip, do you re-inspect the aircraft?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we teach all of our students and pilots to do what we call a pre-flight inspection before every flight. Yeah. No matter when you do it. If you land now, refuel, and 30 minutes later you're climbing again, you always do a walk-around inspection, pre-flight inspection.
Does policy allow for a Florida Tech employee to be on an instructional flight like this?
Yes, there's no policy against it. And remember, everybody on the flight was, as you say, a Florida Tech student or instructor or an employee. So these flights are conducted all the time. They're fairly routine, and there's no policy prohibiting it.
Is that common though?
Well, yes, it is common. If you've got 4 seats in the airplane and other pilots or passengers want to go along, we always reserve the right to limit what passengers we want to go or what non-instructional people want to go. But if we can take advantage of an opportunity to provide additional training, we do so. So it is common policy. It is. It's not a problem. What we frown on, I'm hesitating just a little bit, is if somebody wanted to walk off the streets. And say somebody walking off the streets and said, I'm interested in taking flying lessons. Can I just ride along on a flight with you? We probably would not allow that. But a person that worked here at FIT Aviation, as an FIT Aero student who wanted to go along on the flight, then we would more than likely allow that.
Now you're saying most of the students had around 200 hours, and it looks like even the instructor on the plane was fairly young. How many hours did the instructor have under their belt?
Yeah, I don't have that information right off the top of my head, but I do know that Jenny Frimley was a very, very fine instructor and and quite experienced for her age. Jenny is a graduate of ours. I believe she graduated in '06. So it's like four years ago. So I don't know what her total flight time is, but Jenny was an experienced flight instructor, and she was very well qualified for the flights that she was conducting. Yeah, Jenny is. In fact, Jenny, I believe, requalified very recently and was very comfortable and very experienced in the Seminole. So again, experience is all relative. You know, you can become a flight instructor with a couple of hundred hours of flight time. A couple hundred hours of flight time is not insignificant.
How many do you need to graduate? Like how close?
Well, what you need to graduate obviously is you complete your 4-year degree and all the academic courses. But typically, when a person receives a commercial, single-engine land, multi-engine land instrument rating, they're typically somewhere around 230, 250 hours of flight time. And that's not unusual. You know, I was a naval aviator. I went through Navy flight training. When I earned my wings as a naval aviator, I had a little over 200 hours of flight time. So we got people flying in combat with 300 hours of flight time, because you finish your military training, you spend 100 hours in your combat airplane and you're off to Afghanistan or Iraq, or in my case, Vietnam. So 200 hours is not insignificant. But everything is relative. It's not the same as 2,000 hours. So anyway, somebody asked about Jenny. Jenny was a very fine instructor, one of our stronger young instructors, and very, very well qualified for what she's doing.
Do you have a sense of what is the school safety record? Can you remember the last time you had a crash?
I could not remember. Somebody asked me that earlier, and we had to go look it up. The last time we had a fatal crash was in 1996. Yes, 96. And we fly a lot of flight time. In fact, if memory serves me, we flew about 28,000 hours last year, and we were on track to fly over 30,000, 35,000 hours of flight time this year. So we did a lot of training, and we have a good flight, a safety record. And obviously we're concerned about this event because we want to figure out what happened so that we can try and prevent it from happening again.
Dean, with your experience in the Navy and NASA, what have you been talking to students about with your past experiences?
I could fill a volume with that, but the main thing we've been trying to teach students is that, first of all, safety is the most important aspect of your flight, and that safety is a state of mind, and safety is an approach. It's not a book, it's not a bunch of procedures, it's not something you turn it on and turn it off. Safety has to be how you approach it. It has to be instilled in you, and we've tried to instill an atmosphere of safety throughout the organization out here. We've done a number of things, like appoint a full-time safety manager, and so we've done that. We have what we call safety stand-downs, and that's an old Navy thing that we used to do when I was on active duty, where periodically you just shut down all flight operations and get everybody together and focus specifically on safety. We've introduced statistical process control, where we take a look at our airplanes and our processes to determine what issues we have most often. For example, is the most often occurring issue radio failure? Or is it a blown tire? Or is it generator failure? What is it? We're delving into safety in a way that's never been done before, because safety is paramount to us. But we tell our students that in this business, if you do it long enough, things will happen. It's unfortunate and it hurts us, and we try to do the best like we can to prevent it, but things do happen, and we will deal with it best we can, and we'll move on. And we also, lastly, try and tell our students that no matter how painful this is to us, we have to keep it all in perspective, and and I certainly don't mean to sound dismissive or anything, but I'm safer in the air than I am driving down I-95.